The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chambers glittered under the light of 3 suns. Inside, 200 alien representatives from across the galaxy sat in tiered rows, their attention fixed on the holographic display floating in the center of the room. The image showed a small blue planet, third from its yellow star. "Earth," announced High Counselor Reed, his scaled fingers tapping against the smooth surface of his control panel. "A level 4 civilization that has barely reached its own moon. They refuse to join the Galactic Council and continue to expand their military presence in their local space." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A level 4 civilization daring to refuse the Council's authority was unheard of. Most species joined eagerly, accepting the Council's protection and guidance. "Their military capabilities are primitive," continued Reed, bringing up images of Earth's orbital defenses. "Simple kinetic weapons, chemical rockets, and basic energy shields. Nothing that could challenge even our smallest battle group." In the middle row, Commander White of the Council's defense fleet leaned forward, his reptilian eyes narrowing. Something about the humans' defenses bothered him, but he couldn't quite place what it was. The layout seemed too simple, too obvious. "I propose we send Battle Group 7 to establish our presence in their system," Reed said. "A simple show of force should bring them to their senses." The Council members nodded in agreement. It was the standard approach. Demonstrate overwhelming power, and watch the primitive civilization scramble to join their ranks. It had worked countless times before. But as the vote was about to begin, White stood up. "High Counselor, if I may speak." Reed gestured for him to continue, though his expression showed mild annoyance at the interruption. "Something about their defensive positions doesn't make sense," White said, pointing to the hologram. "They've left obvious gaps in their coverage. Their satellites follow predictable patterns. It's almost as if what, Commander?" Reed asked, his voice carrying a hint of impatience. "As if they want us to attack those positions," White finished. "In all my years studying military strategy, I've never seen a species leave such obvious weaknesses unless it was a trap." Laughter echoed through the chamber. Several council members shook their heads or waved dismissive appendages. "Commander," Reed said, his voice dripping with condescension, "these are humans we're talking about. They still use combustion engines in their ground vehicles. Their most advanced computers use silicon chips. They're barely more advanced than animals." White sat down, but the uneasy feeling in his gut remained. He'd fought enough battles to know when something wasn't right. The Council voted overwhelmingly to send Battle Group 7. 30 warships, each capable of destroying a small moon, would enter the Sol system in 3 days. The humans would be given one chance to surrender and join the Council. If they refused, well, a few demonstrations of power usually changed minds quickly. As the Council members filed out of the chamber, White stayed behind, studying the hologram of Earth's defenses. He zoomed in on one of the orbital platforms, noticing something odd. The platform's energy signature was too low for its size. Either human technology was even more primitive than they thought, or... His thoughts were interrupted by Reed's voice. "Still worried about the primitives, Commander?" White turned off the hologram. "I hope I'm wrong, High Counselor. For all our sakes." 3 days later, Battle Group 7 entered hyperspace, its 30 ships arranged in perfect formation. They would emerge near Earth's moon, presenting an overwhelming display of the Council's power. As the ships disappeared into hyperspace, White stood in the control center, watching the readings. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. The humans' defenses were too obvious, too primitive, too perfect. He just hoped he would be proven wrong. But deep down, he knew the Council was about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating humanity. Battle Group 7 emerged from hyperspace near Earth's moon, their 30 massive warships forming a perfect arrow formation. Admiral Green of the alien fleet smiled at his tactical display. The human defenses were exactly as the Council's scans had shown. Primitive satellites and a few small orbital platforms. "Send the message," Green ordered. His communications officer transmitted the Council's demand: surrender or face destruction. The response came quickly, but not in the form they expected. Instead of words, they received a simple audio file, something humans called music. The song was old, its lyrics speaking of never giving up and never surrendering. Green laughed. Such primitive defiance. Begin the attack pattern. That's when everything went wrong. The primitive satellites suddenly came alive, but they weren't weapons platforms as the aliens had assumed. Each satellite split open, releasing clouds of what looked like metal dust. Within seconds, the dust had spread throughout the space around the alien fleet. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, his voice shaking. "We can't get clear readings through this cloud." Green wasn't worried. Their shields could handle any primitive weapons. Press forward. Launch fighters to clear a path. The fighter squadrons launched, their sleek ships cutting through the metal cloud. But as they did, the dust began to stick to their hulls. Within moments, the fighters' engines started to sputter and die. "It's some kind of smart metal," the science officer shouted. "It's attacking our power systems." Before Green could respond, a new threat appeared. From behind Earth's moon came dozens of human ships. They were blocky and inelegant compared to the Council's sleek vessels, but they moved with surprising speed and precision. "Impossible," Green whispered. These weren't the primitive ships they'd seen in the Council's intelligence reports. These vessels were armed with weapons he'd never seen before. The human ships opened fire, but instead of energy beams or plasma torpedoes, they launched what looked like simple metal projectiles. The aliens laughed until they saw what happened next. The projectiles, traveling at incredible speeds, carried warheads that split apart just before impact. Each warhead released hundreds of smaller projectiles, all targeted at specific weak points in the alien shields. The Council's advanced energy barriers, designed to stop energy weapons, struggled to handle the simple kinetic force. "Sir," the tactical officer screamed. "They're weapons. They're not trying to destroy our ships. They're targeting our sensor arrays and weapon systems." Green watched in horror as his perfectly organized fleet fell into chaos. The human ships moved in complex patterns, using the moon's gravity to slingshot themselves into unexpected attack positions. They fought like no species he'd ever seen, combining simple physics with clever tactics. "Launch our second wave of fighters," Green ordered desperately. "We can't, sir. That metal dust has sealed our launch bays. We're being systematically disabled." A new message came through their communication system. The voice was calm, professional, and spoke in perfect Council standard language. "This is Admiral Jones of the Earth Defense Force. Your ships have been disabled using our first-generation space warfare tactics. Please note that we have deliberately avoided causing casualties. This is your only warning. Leave Earth space, or we will be forced to demonstrate our second-generation capabilities." Green looked at his tactical display in disbelief. 10 of his ships had lost all power. 5 more had their weapons disabled. The rest were being systematically picked apart by the human vessels, which seemed to anticipate every counter-move his fleet tried to make. "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "we should withdraw. We can't fight what we don't understand." As Green gave the retreat order, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises these humans had waiting. They had defeated his advanced fleet using simple physics, smart dust, and kinetic weapons. If these were their first-generation tactics, what could their second-generation weapons do? The battle group limped back into hyperspace, leaving behind a very clear message. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The Galactic Council was not happy. After their space fleet's embarrassing defeat, they decided to try something different. If humans were clever in space, surely they would be weaker on the ground. The Council chose Earth's moon as their first target. "Send in the ground forces," ordered General Stone, watching from his command ship safely hidden behind Mars. "Show these humans how real warriors fight." 10,000 of the Council's best soldiers landed on the moon's dark side. They wore powered armor that could crush tanks and carried weapons that could melt steel. Their orders were simple: capture the human moon base. The alien soldiers marched confidently across the moon's surface, their heavy boots leaving deep prints in the gray dust. Their commander, Captain Pike, led from the front, scanning for any sign of human defenses. The moon base sat quietly ahead of them, looking almost abandoned. "This is too easy," Pike said to himself. He was right. The first surprise came from the dust itself. The alien soldiers suddenly found their armor getting heavier and heavier. The moon dust wasn't just dust. It contained billions of tiny machines that were slowly coating their suits, adding weight with each step. "It's a trap," Pike shouted, but it was too late. His soldiers were already struggling to move. Then the ground began to shake. Hidden doors opened in the moon's surface, and human tanks rolled out. But not normal tanks. These vehicles were flat and wide, designed specifically for moon combat. They moved like giant crabs, using 6 legs instead of tracks to walk across the surface. "Form defensive positions," Pike ordered. But in the low gravity, his soldiers couldn't move fast enough. Their heavy armor, made even heavier by the smart dust, turned them into easy targets. The human tanks fired, but not with normal shells. Instead, they launched nets made of some strange metal that wrapped around the alien soldiers. In the moon's low gravity, the tangled soldiers floated helplessly. Where are the humans? Pike wondered. He got his answer when the moon's surface cracked open again. This time, human soldiers emerged from hidden tunnels. They wore light armor that looked primitive compared to the alien suits, but they moved like acrobats in the low gravity. The human soldiers carried simple weapons, magnetic guns that fired metal slugs, against the aliens' advanced armor. Such weapons should have been useless. But the humans had done their homework. The magnetic bullets were designed to stick to the alien armor and slowly drill through it, disabling systems rather than killing the soldiers inside. "They're everywhere," an alien soldier screamed. The humans were using the moon's low gravity to jump incredible distances, attacking from above and below through a network of tunnels that honeycombed the entire area. Pike watched in disbelief as his forces were systematically taken apart. The humans weren't just fighting. They were dancing through the battlefield, using the moon's conditions to their advantage. When his soldiers tried to use their energy weapons, the shots went wild in the low gravity, missing their targets completely. A message crackled through Pike's communication system. "This is Colonel Black of the Earth Defense Force Moon Division. Your forces are surrounded. We have disabled most of your weapons and mobility systems. Surrender now." Pike looked around. His soldiers were either trapped in nets, stuck in the heavy dust, or tangled in the tunnels. The humans had turned the moon itself into a weapon, using its unique conditions to defeat a technologically superior force. "We surrender," Pike said, realizing that the Council had underestimated humans once again. They hadn't just adapted to fight on the moon. They had completely reinvented ground combat for low-gravity conditions. As human soldiers helped the aliens up, Pike noticed something interesting. The humans' primitive equipment wasn't primitive at all. It was perfectly designed for moon combat. Sometimes, he realized, simpler was better. The Council had learned another hard lesson. Humans didn't just adapt to their environment. They made the environment work for them. The Galactic Council met in an emergency session. After losing both space and ground battles, they thought they had finally found humanity's weakness: industrial capacity. "Look at these numbers," said Economic Advisor Brown, pointing to the holographic display. "Humans take months to build a single warship. Our factories can make 10 ships in that time. We simply need to outlast them." The Council members nodded in agreement. It was simple math. The humans had lost several ships in the previous battles, while the Council had thousands more ready to deploy. But they were about to learn another lesson about human capabilities. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something incredible was happening. The Council's spy ships watched in confusion as human ships appeared to be eating the asteroids. "What are they doing?" asked Fleet Commander Davis, studying the strange readings. "Those aren't mining ships we've seen before." He was right. The humans had deployed what they called factory ships, massive vessels that looked ugly and simple on the outside. but inside each one was a complete automated manufacturing facility. The council watched in growing horror as the truth became clear. The humans weren't just mining the asteroids, they were turning them directly into warships. Each factory ship would attach itself to an asteroid, and within weeks, a new warship would emerge. Impossible, Brown shouted, watching the feeds. Their primitive technology can't work that fast. But it could. The humans had done something the Council had never considered. Instead of building beautiful, complex ships like the Council did, humans made simple, effective vessels. Their ships weren't pretty, but they worked perfectly for their needs. "Sir," a junior analyst reported, "we've detected more factory ships near Saturn's rings. They're using the ice and minerals there to make fuel and ammunition." The council chamber erupted in chaos. This went against everything they knew about shipbuilding. Ships were supposed to be built in proper shipyards, not thrown together in space like some kind of cosmic construction site. Then came the worst news of all. "High Council," said Intelligence Officer Hall, his voice shaking. "We've confirmed that Earth's asteroid belt contains enough material to build over 1 million ships." The room fell silent. The Council's entire fleet numbered only 50,000 ships. But the humans weren't done surprising them. New reports came in showing that Earth itself had transformed. Every car factory now made tank parts. Every computer factory now made military electronics. Even toy factories had been converted to make small drones. "This is their true power," said Commander White, the same officer who had warned them about underestimating humans. "They don't build things like we do. They adapt. They improvise. They overcome." The Council watched in stunned silence as more human ships emerged from the asteroid belt. They weren't identical like Council ships. Each one was slightly different, built from whatever materials were available. But they all worked together perfectly, like pieces of a giant puzzle. "And there's something else," White continued. "Look at their production methods. They're not just building ships. They're improving them. Each new vessel has upgrades based on what they learned in previous battles." The Council had always taken pride in their perfect, standardized manufacturing. But humans had shown them a different way. They built fast, learned faster, and adapted fastest. Brown looked at his economic projections again and made a frightening discovery. At their current rate of production, the humans would match the Council's fleet size in just 6 months. "We thought their industry was primitive," White said quietly. "But we were wrong. They don't build things the way we do because they found a better way. They don't make ships in yards because the whole solar system is their factory." The Council had learned yet another lesson. Never judge a civilization's capabilities by their methods alone. The Galactic Council thought they had finally found a battlefield where humans couldn't possibly compete: cyberspace. After all, Council computers used quantum processors and light-based circuits, while humans still used primitive silicon chips. "Their computer systems are laughably simple," said Tech Director Mills, addressing the Council. "Our quantum AI can break their best encryption in seconds. We'll shut down their entire defense network." The Council launched their cyber attack with complete confidence. Their most advanced AI systems began attacking Earth's military networks. At first, everything went according to plan. Then something strange happened. "Sir," a tech officer called out, "we're getting weird responses from their systems. They're sending us cat pictures." Mills stared at his screens in confusion. Instead of finding military secrets, their AI was being flooded with what humans called memes, simple pictures with text that made no logical sense. But this was just the beginning. While the Council's AI was distracted by the flood of random data, human hackers had already slipped into their systems. They didn't try to break the quantum encryption. They simply looked for old-fashioned passwords and maintenance backdoors. "Alert!" another officer shouted. "Someone is broadcasting human music through all our communication channels." The Council's comm systems were suddenly filled with something humans called rickrolling, an ancient form of musical warfare that their historians would later describe as particularly devious. Mills watched in horror as more systems began failing, The humans weren't attacking their advanced technology directly. They were finding simple weaknesses that nobody had thought to protect. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their technology is centuries behind ours." The answer came from an unexpected source. A message appeared on his screen, sent from Earth's Cyber Command. "Dear Council, while you were busy building quantum computers, we were learning how to break simple systems. Your advanced technology is impressive, but you forgot about the basics. P.S. Your main password shouldn't be Galactic Council 123. The Council's cyber experts had never seen anything like it. The humans used old technology in ways no one had imagined. They created computer viruses that could evolve and adapt. They used artificial intelligence not to break encryption, but to think like hackers. "Sir," reported Security Chief Turner, "the humans aren't trying to destroy our systems. They're teaching our computers to tell jokes." It got worse. Human hackers found ways to make council ships play dance music through their warning systems. They reprogrammed maintenance robots to draw smiley faces on ship hulls. They even managed to make the council's main battle computer play something called Pong. "Stop them," Mills ordered. "But how do you stop an enemy that turns your own systems into entertainment?" The final blow came when the humans demonstrated their real capability. In one coordinated action, they took control of every coffee maker on every council ship. The machines would now only dispense decaf. "This is barbaric," Mills exclaimed. But he had to admit it was clever. How can you fight a war when you can't even get proper coffee? The council's tech experts gathered for an emergency meeting. They had discovered something unexpected about human cyber warfare. Humans didn't just attack systems, they turned them into weapons of mass disruption. "We built perfect systems," Mills said, watching his own screen display a dancing cat gif he couldn't remove. "But the humans? They understand chaos. They don't try to break our technology. They make it do things it was never supposed to do." The council had learned another crucial lesson. Sometimes the simplest technology, used creatively, could defeat the most advanced systems. As council ships struggled with their coffee makers and dancing robots, the humans sent one final message. "Imagine what we could do if we actually wanted to cause damage." The Galactic Council decided to occupy one of Earth's colony worlds, thinking that humans couldn't defend a planet so far from their home. They chose New Eden, a farming colony with only 10,000 settlers. Surely this would be an easy victory. General Rivers of the Council forces landed with 50,000 troops. His soldiers quickly took control of the main city, setting up their base in the center of town. Everything seemed quiet. Too quiet. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Ford, "there's no resistance. The humans are just farming." Rivers should have remembered an old human saying, "Appearances can be deceiving." The trouble started small. Supply trucks began disappearing on routine runs. Patrol vehicles would return with their engines filled with a sticky substance that locals called maple syrup. Communication arrays would mysteriously stop working, only to be found covered in honey from nearby bee farms. "These are just farmers," Rivers insisted. "They can't fight trained soldiers." Then the attacks began. Not big battles like the council expected, but hundreds of tiny problems that drove his soldiers crazy. Every morning, they'd wake up to find their vehicles had been moved slightly to the left. All of them. Every single one. "How are they doing this?" Rivers demanded. "We have guards everywhere." The answer came when they finally caught one of the farmers in action. The human wasn't using advanced technology or weapons. Instead, they found ropes, pulleys, and something called skateboards, simple tools used in clever ways. "Sir," Ford reported, "the locals say they learned these tricks from something called Home Alone movies. They claim it's entertainment." Rivers couldn't believe it. His advanced army was being defeated by farming tools and children's movies. But it got worse. The human settlers had turned their entire colony into one giant trap. Grain silos were actually disguised bunkers. Irrigation pipes formed a secret transport network. Even the cows were part of the resistance, each one fitted with a small device that disrupted council sensors. They're not just farmers, realized Rivers. They're all special forces in disguise. He was half right. The settlers were normal humans who had been trained in something called guerrilla warfare. They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like clever children playing the world's most elaborate prank. Council troops would find their boots filled with quick-growing seeds. Sensor arrays would be blocked by strategically placed scarecrows. Attack dogs would get distracted by automatic tennis ball launchers. This isn't warfare, Rivers complained. This is humans having fun, his second-in-command finished. The final straw came during a major council operation to sweep the farming areas. 5,000 troops moved out in perfect formation, ready for battle. Instead, they found themselves stuck in fields where the irrigation had turned the ground to mud. As they struggled, local birds, trained by the settlers, swooped down to steal their shiny equipment. That evening, Rivers received a message. It was written on the side of a cow that had wandered into his command center. Dear General, hope you're enjoying your stay on New Eden. By the way, we've only shown you our defensive tricks. Would you like to see our offensive capabilities? P.S. The cow is not actually a cow. Rivers looked at the cow. The cow winked at him. Within an hour, the council forces were evacuating. As they left, Rivers heard the settlers had organized something called a victory barbecue. They even invited the remaining council troops to join them. I don't understand these humans, Rivers said, watching his mighty army retreat from farmers. They turned warfare into a game, and then they won that game using tools you'd find in a garden shed. The council had learned perhaps their most important lesson yet. Humans didn't need advanced weapons to win. They just needed creativity, humor, and apparently, a really good barbecue sauce recipe. The Galactic Council gathered for what they hoped would be their final meeting about the human problem. After 6 embarrassing defeats, they had decided to send their entire fleet, 100,000 ships, to end this once and for all. The humans have clever tricks, said High Commander Ross, but they cannot stand against our full might. As the Council fleet prepared to jump to Earth, something unexpected happened. Every screen in the Council chamber lit up with a single message. Please stand by for humanity's final demonstration. What demonstration? Ross demanded. His answer came quickly. At exactly the same moment, on 1,000 different Council worlds, something impossible happened. The lights went out. Not just in one city, but on entire planets. Report, Ross shouted. The reports came flooding in. On each world, human special forces had appeared from nowhere. They hadn't attacked anyone. They had simply shut down every power plant at exactly the same time. How did they get past our defenses? Someone asked. Then came the second demonstration. Every Council ship in the massive fleet received a simple message. Your navigation systems are now running Windows 95. Have a nice day. The mighty Council fleet, pride of the galaxy, found itself unable to jump to hyperspace. Their advanced computers had been replaced with ancient human software that kept showing them something called a blue screen of death. This is impossible, Ross whispered. But the humans weren't done yet. On every Council world, on every ship, and in the Council chamber itself, holograms appeared. They showed recordings of every mistake the Council had made in their war against humanity. The space battle where primitive weapons had defeated their shields. The moon battle where simple tricks had trapped their soldiers. The factory ships building new vessels from asteroids. The cyber attacks that turned their computers into joke machines. The farmers who had defeated their best troops. Then a new hologram appeared. It showed the location of every human special forces team on every Council world. They had been there for months, hidden in plain sight. Greetings, Council, said Admiral Jones, appearing in the chamber. Not in person, but as a simple hologram projected from a device that had been hidden in the chamber's coffee maker. You have seen only a fraction of humanity's capabilities, Jones continued. We have shown you our restraint. We disabled rather than destroyed. We humiliated rather than harmed. We played pranks rather than started wars. The Council members looked at each other nervously. If this was humans showing restraint, what were they capable of when they really wanted to fight? "Here is humanity's offer," Jones said. "Join us as equals. Learn from us as we can learn from you. Together, we can be stronger than apart. You have 1 hour to decide." The council chamber erupted in argument. But deep down, they all knew the truth. Humanity had beaten them not with superior technology, but with creativity. Not with bigger weapons, but with smarter tactics. Not with cruelty, but with cleverness. "We accept your offer," Ross finally said. Jones smiled. "Excellent choice. Now, as a show of good faith, we'll restore your power plants, unlock your ships, and remove all the silly programs we installed. Oh, and we'll stop making your coffee machines serve only decaf." As systems across the galaxy returned to normal, the Council had one final question. "How did you do all this?" "That's simple," Jones replied. "You built your civilization like a perfect machine. Everything standardized, everything following rules. But humans? We're chaos engineers. We break rules to make things work better. We find solutions no one else would think of, because everyone else is too busy following the manual." The war was over. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate a species that can turn defeat into victory, jokes into weapons, and chaos into their greatest strength. As the council members left the chamber, they heard human laughter coming from their communication systems. They weren't even mad anymore. They were just glad humans were finally on their side.